In this video, I'm going to break down from both a high level and more niche specific micro level how I've managed to be successful in the crypto industry over the last 5 years. There are a lot of useful lessons you can take away from this video. For those of you who don't know, my name is Kuruj AK. I run Market Meditations, leading education provider in the cryptocurrency space, and my goal is to help as many people as possible reach financial freedom through crypto. I hope this video helps and enjoy.
Okay.
Perfect.
So PJ, thanks for being a member of the Market Meditations community all this time. I'm really happy you got this consultation call because you had some fantastic questions that I'm going to record because it can help a lot of people, I'm pretty sure. Your first question was, what are the best practices to establish strategies that work for me? How and when do you recognize a change in strategy is needed? So there are a few factors in establishing a personally suited strategy. I broke it down into 3. Firstly, it's your personal edge via your skill suitability. So naturally, what are you more inclined towards, and what do you do best? So for example, some people are more mathematically orientated, in which case you probably want to choose a strategy that's more data focused, say on-chain analytics or intraday trading on lower time frames, or you just test really large data sample sizes. Alternatively, if you're more visual, or if you prefer to think on a different plane, something like fundamental analysis might be much more suited to you. Or heck, trading and investing might just completely not be the right field, and maybe you dive into NFTs. So really it's identifying what you're actually good at. And then the second part can sound a little similar, but it's often overlooked and very different. And that is your personal edge via curiosity. So there's one, what skills are you actually good at? And then the second is curiosity, because success is always born from consistency. And if you're curious, interested, or enjoy something, then consistency becomes so much easier. Showing up, the amount of willpower, that willpower requirement goes down, and it makes you want to turn up every day. And that's the only way to succeed. Just turn up every day longer than someone else who doesn't, and you'll be the one coming out on top, especially in a competitive game like the markets. And then the final edge, and this one's really important as well, is edge via picking the right boat or market. Because the other two, it's what's in your control, how hard you row. The other one is what boat you pick. And this can be a world of difference. So if you pick the right market conditions, for example, that's like a micro boat to pick, knowing when to trade and when not to trade. For example, 2020, 2021 was the time to trade. Every single thing was going upwards and non-stop. Bullish market structures across the board. These sorts of environments are ones in which you want to jump on that trading investing boat. Every single IDO that anyone got in was profitable for 2 years. Literally, if you got onto a whitelist for an IDO, you would make profit. If you got onto the right airdrop, you would make 5 to 10K right off on top of that. If you got into the right yield farms and say you're trading with larger position sizes, you could have made huge amounts of alpha on that because you were in the right boat, not because you had some magical ability to pick these sorts of projects. So this really comes into play as well with which strategy you use in which conditions and how you play the game. So those would be the 3 things to establish your personal strategy that I would focus on. And then the fantastic question you asked for the second part is, when is a change needed? So this has been something which has taken me a long time to learn, and I'm still learning. But for now, I have 2 main things I use in order to identify when a changing strategy is needed, not just with trading, but this applies to other stuff as well. So number 1 is the simple one, which is when the trajectory is no longer upwards. Because as long as something is continually improving, you will eventually get to your result, because people really underestimate the power of compounding performance on any trading strategy or any endeavor. So as long as the trajectory is still upwards and it's not swapped to go downwards, you can stick with that strategy. However, now this is the second bit, which is a lot more difficult because anyone can spot a strategy going up. The second part is the rate of progression in line with how fast you want to get to your goals? Now, this isn't a cry to go look for get-rich-quick schemes, but rather circling back to things which are in your control, how much time you put in, which market you pick. If the rate of progression is not where you want it to be at, say, for example, you're trading and you're making more and more money, your position size is increasing, but your stress is going up drastically. So your lifestyle is going downhill. So even though you're making more money, you're now no longer positively going up. To leverage a personal example from myself, it was early on when position sizes were a little bit smaller. I was really, really focused, PJ, on just spending every waking moment trading. I would set alarms in the middle of the night. I would constantly get up. It was my obsession. It was all I was doing. And I could do this, but as the position sizes started to grow, the amount of money you'd make spending more time, plus the amount of stress that came with it, increased disproportionately. So what I started doing was alternating my trading style around that. So instead of doing, say, intraday trades, I started switching to more of a positional trader, more of a portfolio manager, because the ROI on time changed. So the trajectory of that craft was no longer going where I wanted it to go. So those would be the two things I'd really focus on: the direction of the trajectory and the rate of change of the trajectory. Now, so that was question one. Is there anything I can expand upon or make a bit more clear there?
No, that's very helpful. I think when we're talking about the rate of change, that's kind of that seems like a piece of moderation, right? Of where do you feel the most comfort in what you're gaining and that's where it's important really to set my goal. If I set my goal of what I hope to achieve by a specific time frame, do these two factors add up to that timeline?
And when setting those goals, try to use both a combination of external and internal benchmarks. So externally, who's done this, how quickly, and in how much time? Make sure that information is reliable. And internally, what are you capable of? What do you know you can do? That requires a lot of self-awareness. Personally, I try to be very humble with that. I assume I will be the average. And then if I do better, I'll be happy with myself. If I do worse, I'll know I can at least do the average.
All right. Excellent. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, my pleasure. So the next question was key indicators to evaluate the crypto market. And if you've been following me for a year, I'm sure you can guess my first part to this answer, which is no magic indicator whatsoever. I've seen a variety of strategies work for everyone. I mean, of the hundreds of traders, multimillionaires, billionaires that have come on the podcast, the one thing they have in common is no indicator or strategy. It's macro frameworks. Now, what I can do now is, so with all of these answers, I'm either going to try, PJ, go really high level and give you the macro frameworks, or I'll dive into the real micro nuance. So with this one, the high level is everything works. The micro nuance, I can tell you what I personally have found to be by far the most successful. And that is a combination of technical analysis and market sentiment. So I use technical analysis to determine the market structure, set my key levels, and decide when I enter and exit position. So that's what technical analysis is used for. And then I use market sentiment to almost decide if this is the right boat I want to be in at the right time. So I gauge market sentiment by keeping up to date with the news, everything going on in the space, also talking to as many smart people as I can behind the space. I mean, the most important thing with the podcast is the podcast doesn't make me a cent, PJ. It just gives me an amazing opportunity to talk to some of the smartest people in the space and learn from them and help influence my own decisions. So I use a combination of technical analysis and that gauge, that pulse on the market to make my decisions. And then one real specific nuanced thing, which I didn't fully understand in 2017, but honed over 2021, and it was very successful, is picking up narratives. The market likes a story. The market likes to pick a story and then latch onto that story hard. Early 2020, the story was DeFi. DeFi is going to be the future. Any project that had anything remotely to do with DeFi was going to explode. Then that narrative swapped over to layer one competitors. It swapped over to Solana. For a while, it was Avalanche ecosystem projects. For a while, it became NFTs. But it's really, when you pay attention to the news, you can spot those stories. And if you can do that reliably, in combination with technical analysis, your hit rate can get so high that you should never say it publicly on social media because no one will believe you. That's how effective it can be, because it's the emotional control to just sit back, wait for that opportunity you know is the one with the right story, the right market sentiment, and then dive in at the right time. So yeah, anything you'd like me to expand upon there?
No, I think, what I'd like to say is, I think the last sentence that you made there, emotional control, I think that's one of the things that's been key to helping me in this space. And I hope it helps many other people, because when you start getting emotionally manipulated into acting, you manipulate yourself. You decide, I am missing out. I gotta jump in on this. Oh my God, it's bad. I got to get out. And that's why we're always joking about selling high or we buy high and sell low, because it's emotional roller coasters.
Yeah.
So, and I'm seeing that more in the NFT space. I think that's where I see a lot of emotional challenge is the lack of discipline when it comes to NFTs for a lot of people.
Yeah, it really is, because the NFT space is so different as well, in that trading is a bit closer to, say, stocks or the stock. So crypto trading is a bit closer to the stock market, but NFTs are a lot more close to luxury items like Yeezys or baseball cards, in the entire value, that there's nothing but the story and the community and the hype around them. I mean, it's purely bred from emotion. You could argue stocks are to the same degree, but at the general cryptos, at least there's some sort of logic that creates the emotion. With NFTs, it really does, it's driven by that emotion. So PJ, the other question, the next one, number 3, was my advice for achieving financial freedom through crypto. You asked me to tell you something you need to know. So
yeah, what would you tell yourself if you had to give yourself advice? What are the key things there? I apologize. I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just curious, please. Because I think that's one of the challenges, right? Is the lessons, the opportunity to listen to somebody and take their knowledge from experience is profound. I mean, it really helps us prevent making mistakes or maybe able to see new opportunities. But sometimes it's the personal traits of what did I need to know that wasn't technical, that wasn't specifically something that I can practice. What is it that I have to become better at?
So I think to say achieve financial freedom, what would personally apply to me, and if I was to go back to myself right after I left university and give one piece of advice, it would be that to succeed, you have to get lucky, but you can create your own luck. That's that part of creating your own luck is what most people don't understand. You can literally guarantee luck for yourself if you do a combination of a few things. The most important one being just survive. Like in a space like crypto, control your downside. That's it. Make sure you don't lose everything. That's number 1, because if you don't have that down, even if you succeed, you're done. Then number 2, continually improve in anything, literally anything you're good at. Just make sure you get 1% better at every day in the right place. So what have we done now? We've guaranteed we're going to survive. Then we've guaranteed we're going to keep getting better. Do you see how we're creating the environment for luck one after another? And then the specific skills eventually you want to hone is the ability to identify and take advantage of positive EV opportunities. So positive EV would be positive expected value. So if I can identify what's a good bet, and this isn't just trading, this is I meet the right person at the right time and he comes to me with a business opportunity and I know I can take this. That could be an example of a positive EV bet. So in that instance, if I make a bunch of wrong decisions around that, how do I continually improve? I learn to read people better. I go get 100 books on how to interact with people, how to read people's intentions, how to better present yourself to attract the right type of people. So identify and take advantage of, and then just keep taking those bets. So you keep taking positive expected value opportunities, you control your downside, it guarantees success. And every move I make these days is based around just slowly, continually going up. I tell everyone on my team, whatever decision we make, let's just make sure we win if we lose. Let me give you two examples of that. Example number one would be if I were to try get to 100 million plus net worth in a week, and I just throw all my money into an altcoin, which I think might go 10x. So sure, I throw a bunch of money into that and I make a fortune really quickly. But if it goes down, I lose everything. So there is no win if I lose. If I lose, it's over there. Even if it might be a positive expected value bet, because I might have the right information that this is a good altcoin and it could probably do well, I could lose the game like that. An example of an all-in, which is just a great bet for me, is Market Meditations right now, the newsletter. That is an all-in bet for me, and it's the thing I want to focus on the most, because the goal is I want to get 1 million people to learn about crypto, to help them achieve financial freedom through crypto, to get exposed through this to this space. And I might fail. I might not reach 1 million people, but I'm going to build a whole bunch of skills about building a company, managing a team. I'm going to network in crypto. I'm going to add value to as many people as possible along the way. And that is a win even if I lose. So I've gone all in, but if I lose, I'm still moving forward. So instead of even going down, you're removing your risk of downside and replacing it with risk of upside if you don't lose. So looking for bets like that would be the long-winded answer to your question.
No, that's very helpful. Thank you. So it's education. If I heard you correctly, education, network, communicate, identify opportunities. Those are not just things that are personal, but that's actually what helps you grow. That's what's helping you to achieve those things.
Those were a specific example, but it could even be trading, for example. So like picking the right statistical skills with, so if your focus right now was just trading, for me, it's those things, because Market Meditations is my biggest focus right now. For the previous years when it was just trading, I would develop systems. Those systems would eventually lose to the market. Then I'd lock myself in a room for 3 to 6 weeks. I'd backtest every day religiously for like 8 hours until that system either worked or didn't work, and then develop new ones, new ideas. That was what I did there in order to hone it for trading. And I knew eventually, as long as I keep getting better at backtesting, as long as I keep getting better at reading the market, better and better systems would come along until eventually I would hit the jackpot with one system that would just work fantastically for a long period of time and make up for all the failed attempts or systems that didn't quite do as well as I wanted them to. Even in those examples, I would take bets like I wanted to build my own bot. Eventually I ended up hiring someone to do it for me, but at the start I wanted to build my own. So I taught myself Python, and I thought, okay, so if I fail at building my own bot, I get a whole bunch of backtesting data. I learn a programming language in the meantime, and I see what that rabbit hole is like. So it's a win for me, even if it loses.
Right. That makes total sense. Total sense.
Nice. So the next place to go to was you were asking what different types of strategies exist when developing a crypto plan. How are they the same and how do they differ? Could you just define a bit what you mean by crypto plan, PJ?
Sure. So when you're trying to, I suppose it is deciphering what tools can somebody use to help build their strategy so that you know what you're investing in, if that makes sense. What portions, I think one of the challenges that I run across is I see projects, I do the research, I understand what the use case is, the application, and try to predict where does this fit in the future, right? And as you pointed out, every year it seems to change. There's a new strategy or a new topic, something else that's developing. Getting the right diversification becomes a challenge sometimes, especially for somebody that's newer to the space, trying to understand where should they be looking at their crypto assets. How do you build that diversification? And when do you start making those changes? There's just so many moving parts to understanding the markets that I think just from an experience standpoint, is it more of a feel? Is it specific? Again, going back to the news, is it just changes to the way people feel about that currency or that crypto technology. So how does that help you change your diversity in your portfolio?
There's another fantastic question. And PJ, if it's okay with you, I'm going to mix the answer of 6 in with this one, because I think it'll work quite nicely to round things off as well. We've gone a little over, but that's totally fine. This has been a pleasure. So PJ, okay, first I'd start with what I personally do that I found highly effective is I don't view crypto in isolation of my total net worth. So I treat everything as one machine with specific goals. So starting with profit taking on a very macro level, I know at all times I want X% of my portfolio in cash, X% of my portfolio in stocks, and then X% of my portfolio exposed to crypto. And for the sake of simplicity, let's just pick 3 segments for this. So we've got cash, crypto, and stocks. And let's do an even divide of 33% each. So in a situation where my crypto has done so well that it's grown disproportionately to what I originally wanted, I may consider moving some of that crypto back into stocks or back into cash. Now, in doing this, I'm not saying stocks or cash are going to necessarily do better than crypto. I'm saying there's a certain amount of volatility and risk I want to expose myself to. And when crypto gets too high, my portfolio's gotten a bit more volatile, a bit more risky than I necessarily want it to be. So I'm not thinking, how do I maximize money? I think that's a mistake people make. I'm just thinking, how do I control my risk? That's not minimize. Some people, you don't always want to minimize your risk depending on your situation, your goals, but you want to control and be very deliberate with your risk. Now, we can dive a little more into the micro. So I don't just have crypto as a category. I dive into crypto and I've got deep breakdowns of how I play my crypto portfolio. So I'm going to have a certain amount of exposure in, actually, let me make another point before I dive into this. So I like to be more active with things I have an edge in and less active with things I don't have an edge in. So for example, I'm very, very deeply rooted into the crypto space, have more knowledge than the average person would to a pretty large degree. However, with stocks, I'm a golden retriever. I'm completely helpless. I've got no idea what's going on. So I'm just going to make passive investments in a large index portfolio. So I'm not going to dive in and try pick specific stocks. That's not my game. I just want to match the market there and take on a deliberate amount of risk. But with crypto, I think I can outperform the market. I think I have enough information, emotional control, and skills to do better than the market. So I dive in, and instead of taking a passive approach of, say, buying just Bitcoin and a bit of Ethereum, I'm going to go into specific categories of crypto. I'm going to get a certain amount of exposure to the NFT space. I'm going to get a certain amount of exposure to specific yield farms. So I'm going to have, say, stable coins, and I'm going to put them into yield farms, and I'm going to get interest off of that. That in itself is a bit of a risky investment because obviously it comes with risks, but I know I'm generating return through that. And then I'm going to have a certain amount of Bitcoin, certain amount of Ethereum, certain amount of layer ones, and these grow over time, and they adjust based on how much knowledge I have on each specific sector and how active I want to be with the management of my portfolio over there. So if I'm extremely knowledgeable and confident, firstly, even with this, I like to maintain a certain degree of passiveness because humility is just something which has served me really well. So I assume that I should majoritarily hold Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I do. So the majority of my portfolio is going to be Bitcoin and Ethereum, but I'm going to make bigger and bigger bets depending on conviction and just how much edge I think I have in different asset classes. So for you, if you were to mimic my strategy, you would start with a core of the crypto portfolio, which could be just Bitcoin, Ethereum exposed to the upside. And then you need to decide for yourself, where do you have the edge? So is it, don't pick specific projects either. Really try to specialize in individual things one at a time, or do what I've done, hire people to specialize for you and help build that edge. So layer ones would be one example. Say you really want to understand the layer one game and you spend 1 to 2 months deep diving into every single competitor. Then you make some really educated bets on who you think is going to succeed. It's not going to be a big part because remember, majoritarily, we're humble, we're passive to the market, Bitcoin, Ethereum, but we start making those bets there. That would be what I do to approach the market. And the last thing I'll share is you can also, again, this is the very humble way to look at it, but just use market cap of a project as a means of determining the riskiness of the project. The higher the market cap, the lower the risk. The lower the market cap, the higher the risk. That's a very easy measure to control your risk. Because remember, all you're trying to do is control your risk. So if you've got lower market cap projects, risk is higher. If you've got higher market cap projects, risk is lower. Very easy filter to deciding how to construct your portfolio with cryptos. And the strategy here with taking profit is exactly the same as the macro strategy. You look for deviations. Say you made a great layer one bet and you bought Solana at $3 when we spoke about it last year. You made that bet and now Solana is 50% of your portfolio. Well, that might be a bit more than you want. So that would be the point to get a bit more Bitcoin, to get a bit more Ethereum, because it's not because you think Solana's reached the top or Solana isn't going to be higher, because you're never going to know when the top is. It's more because you think you don't want this much risk in Solana anymore, which really helps detach you as well from the, I didn't sell the top. No, instead you're thinking, I controlled my risk, because that's what the only thing which is in your control.
I love it. That is fantastic. Risk helps to detach. Understanding your risk helps you to detach the emotional connection. I love it. That is very, very helpful, honestly. Because my habit has always been, once I sold something, don't turn around, don't look back at it. Moving forward, right? But now it makes sense because it helps actually justify. It helps me recognize that risk was the whole factor. This was really why I made that intent. It wasn't to try and take the top. It was to mitigate my risk.